Welcome to the SJ Child Show. This episode is sponsored by Water and Body Basics. Visit 3440 South, 5600 West, West Valley City, Utah. Mention SJ Childs today.
Hi, and welcome to the SJ Childs Show. I'm your host, SJ Childs, and today my guest is Annette Whittenberger. I hope I said that all correctly. I should have double checked with you before I just went flying into it, but I had to tell the last gal that I interviewed, I'm very phonetic reader. And so sometimes I just sound things out as I'm going, and boy, you can make a mess of things like that. It's so great to have you here today. Thank you so much. Introduce yourself. Let us know why you're here today.
Well, I don't know why I go back to this. I always say I'm a retired Army, but I'm a mom first.
Right? No, I get that.
So I'm a mom I have an 18-year-old son and a 21-year-old daughter. They're both in college, and I military spouse of 23 years, and I'm a retired Army vet. So, yeah.
That's so great. I mean, it's so nice to connect with you and to be able to, really talk about just some important, details of life that people maybe glaze over, don't think about enough, don't talk about. And a lot of that comes with in-vet services. I'm sure that you see that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. We were just talking about a couple of books. One that is out. You just had a book signing for. Let's talk about that. Tell us about that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I released my first book on June, and I did my first book signing event in Virginia. But that's where I just came from, and then my second one just happened last weekend on Fort Hood. So that was really cool.
And what is the book called?
It's called The Wall Between Two Lives.
Wow, that's amazing. Tell us a little bit about it.
So it is a memoir. It talks about mainly from my childhood up until 2020 about how I discovered that I had some mental health issues going on, and I didn't know how to process it. And I think just wanted to provide hope for people that have been through any kind of obstacle in their life that they can make it through. So, I know a lot of us, when we grew up, I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s, just being raised in that generation. We didn't really talk about our feelings.
Yeah.
So,
they, hide it. Don't talk about it. Don't look at that. Nope. Don't let them see that.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's traumatic. And now we get here and we have to dig through all of that.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I did. So I talk about that in the book, and then what I do now.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And what are you doing now too?
So now I am working on an audiobook. So that'll be released next month. I decided to narrate it myself.
Oh, that's cool.
So that I could just, use my own voice, since it's my story.
Yeah, I love that, Annette. I love that.
Yeah. And, it's, I think a lot of us may think, oh, it's so easy. You read a book. But when you start reading the words out loud that you put on paper, it was actually more difficult than I thought.
Yeah. And a lot of emotions probably come up, and you're like, nope, keep it together, stay professional. But at the same time, I mean, in those emotions is where that growth and that change or that pivot can occur, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely an experience. So that's really exciting for me, because I never really knew what I was going to do. I wanted to put my story out there to help other people. So
yeah, definitely. Oh, I love that. And what is the new book called?
It's the same. It's the same title.
It's the ebook. Great. Or the audio rather.
Yeah, the audio.
That's wonderful. I love that. And it's so important to embrace. And nowadays, we're not afraid to talk about our feelings. It's okay if men cry. It's like we have to reassign and reset the society's views and what their parameters are for these things that are ridiculous, if you ask me.
Right.
In so many ways. And I see it not only in our generation, but now with a son with special needs, like, and a family with special needs. I have two daughters and a husband with autism, and it's a lot in this. There's like stigmas and there's ideas that are old and don't align with our world today, just
Right.
like the ideas of mental health when you were growing up. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Simi Valley, California. It's in Southern California.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that you had a lot of pressure to, probably, I don't know, what was your family style like?
I mean, my mom raised my brother and I on her own for a few years before she met my stepdad, but there was pressures back then because you tried to keep your business in the home. So whatever things we went through, like I mentioned before, I was talking to somebody and I said, either if you're bleeding or you broke a bone, that was the
Acceptable.
that was it. And so everything else, you just kind of just move on. And so that's what we were taught to do. And then you grow up in this society now, in this generation, and it's like, well, what do I really do with all these feelings?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was my problem, is that I didn't know. And I finally started seeing it in my own kids. I was like, oh my gosh, they're looking at me, I'm supposed to be their role model, or I'm their parent. So if this is how I'm handling it, then that's how they're going to handle it. And that's not okay. So
definitely. And it's, it's a great new kind of vision, if you will, for this, for our generation, because similar to yours, I mean, my parents were, number one, a military dad. I didn't know even if I mentioned that or not, but my dad was F4 pilot. He was a commander of the Reno Air National Guard at one point. And so it's funny in just that there's that dedication, and my parents are divorced. And I'm an only child. And so it was like, do it live, here you go. Here's your life. Good luck.
Right.
Okay. Well, it was interesting. And so I think that nowadays my focus on my kids is 100%. Like I want to be involved in their daily lives. I want to be involved in their school. I want to be involved with their friends. And I mean, not helicopter parent involved, but I want to have the relationship with them that's so trusting and so open and flexible that it's just like second nature to come home and talk about things.
Yes.
There's no need to hide in their room or bite their nails or, just those show sign tells of, anxiety and things like that coming up that, like you said, they don't need to do those things. And I don't need to show them through my actions. Like I need to get it together. Right. And do that for myself. And which it only evolves more. Like once you change that about yourself, everything in your life changes, right? Relationships, your professional life, all of those things. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely. What type of impact did being a vet have on you in that situation? I mean, and was some of the mental, did that play into it, or did you hold on to some of that? Was it, prior or after that had happened, after your service?
Yeah, I tried to be who I thought I was supposed to be throughout my career. So when I was growing up, I was shy, but I smiled a lot. I had some friends, and I was just I can't think of the name. I just loved people. But when I joined, I was told that I smiled too much and I was too nice. And so I
tossed me out. Right? That's why my dad never wanted me to join. Now it makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
So I thought I had something to prove as a female,
Yeah, sure.
and so it made me tougher, but it also changed me in ways that I didn't, I started noticing later that that wasn't me.
Yeah.
This was not who I am. And so, but because I got so used to wearing those different masks, I was really good at suppression, that when I retired and I didn't have that anymore, it was like, who am I? Who am I? What am I supposed to be? When somebody asked me who is Annette, I didn't know how to answer that.
Yeah.
And so that was hard. And it took me, about 4 years after retirement to finally realize, just like when you asked me to tell about myself, I was like, I stumbled. I'm so used to saying these things, but I need to start from the beginning. I'm a mom first, but before it was, I was a soldier first. And that was just what was instilled in my mind. So it's hard.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's incredible. And I, like I said, never was in the service myself, but just could see it from a child's point of view in my own family life. And the disconnect, that my dad had, at least, but he was always involved. And so I was just kind of like the bystander, I guess.
And I think that's so interesting. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because we do forget that our children see that. My whole time I was always so busy trying to be a soldier that I wasn't as focused on being a mom like I should have been. So I think it's always so important to get the children's point of view on what they saw, because they're seeing their dad work all the time. They're seeing their dad angry all the time. They're seeing their dad sleep all the time. Whatever the case is, they saw that. And so, like with my own kids, it's funny because they don't want to join the service. Actually, my daughter has some interest, but my son was like, no, because he saw what we did. And he's like, I don't want to do that. Yeah. And so they do see it. And that's why I think it's so important to talk about,
I love that.
The children's view, because they see things that we don't think they see.
Agreed. No, I completely agree. And we have a 21-year-old as well as a 9 and 11-year-old. So we have that huge gap. And the difference between parenting, when I was the 21-year-old stepmom, so right there in itself is a different approach to parenting. Like, I gave it my best. I did exactly what I thought I should do based on how I was parented, because number one, bless her heart, no matter what, I still wasn't a biological parent. And I still didn't have that, even though I had wanted it my whole life and I was very maternal, I still didn't have that, my child force in me like I do with my 2 biological kids. It's just it's just biological. I don't know how else to say it. I'm sure that foster and adopted parents, and now with my stepdaughter, we've gained that. We've earned, it grew, but it took years. It wasn't instant. But in those first years that it has to be instant. There's been times in just lately in the past few years that I've gone to her and apologized and just said, wow, this approach that I took was not me. It was totally my parent. It was totally the angry, whatever that I thought was what was supposed to be done. I thought was what was best. And I really held myself accountable and kind of a little bit guilty even, felt bad about it for a little while. And then I heard this really great analogy. And it's only been a couple days, but it's a kind of about relating children to plants, in that no matter how you grow them, they're going to grow. Like, you could put them in different colored soils, or you can, stand over them and water them all the time, or sun them all the time, move them around, whatever. But they're going to grow in their own way, on their own terms, in their own special, things. And the most important part is to keep them watered, light, and fed, right? And that is the most important part. And part of that is feeding that emotional awareness. Part of that is letting your children have bad days, letting your children be human beings. You know, I kind of used to joke with my mom, who was very, in that older generation kind of thinking, if my son doesn't want to have a peanut butter sandwich, he doesn't have to. Like, he has his whole life to eat a sandwich. I'm not going to force him now that he's 4 or whatever. Like, there's not like a time restriction that these things need to happen. There's not a time for dinner. Like, we can eat whenever we want. Like, this is it's just kind of funny how you like evolve your life to be who you really are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of who you think you should be.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. 100%. I agree. And that is so hard. I can't. And you had 2. And I mean, like, I have the 2 little ones now, but I'm like, oh gosh, teen years are coming. Like, I'm in for it. But I hope that I've already established with them a different type of relationship than I had with my oldest, who I finally have that relationship with her now. But, that's 16 years later, 17 years later. And now I have the opportunity to do it again, basically, and tweak here and there and make it, and so I think that it bothers her in a little bit a sense that she kind of sees it and is just like, boy, they don't get yelled at like I used to. But at the same time, I always say, well, would you want them to be like, would that make you happy does that make you feel good? Like, if you were to hear me yelling and them cowering or feeling bad, does that make you feel good? And, oh, well, no, like, I'm so glad. No, I don't want that for them. So, but yeah, right. It's an interesting dynamic. That's for sure.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So what are your plans for the future? Anything new you're going to be working on after the audiobook? Or is that just kind of, that's a lot right now to be working on.
I've learned the hard way to just take it as it comes. If God sees something and he gives it to me, then I'm going to do that, because I spent so much time trying to chase the next big thing or try to be, or, have the most, how many followers am I going to get? How many downloads? It's really hard. Yeah. So I had to learn to figure out, okay, why am I doing what I do? And so I love helping people, and that's my main focus. So however I can do that, whether it's, a Zoom or a phone call or a podcast, whatever the case is, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And that's what my path is. So, I don't know what's next. I will just continue doing what I can. I love being a speaker now, and I love to write still. So I'll just do that and see what happens.
I love that. And do you have your own podcast as well?
I do. I like you, I took a couple months off for different reasons. I needed a mental health break.
Yeah.
So I haven't done anything since May, but I do plan to get back to it. It's called The Truths We Hide. And so, we'll see. We'll see it hopefully in the next month. I told myself October, but it didn't happen. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And isn't that so nice? As I was just saying earlier, like, you're your own boss. I'm my own boss. My schedule is my own. I can adjust it as necessary, especially in my flexible family. People coming in and out with no.
I mean, I used to get so caught up in worrying about, well, they're waiting for my episode. I used to do 2 episodes a week.
No, I totally
and I was like, it's so, it was a lot of pressure. And I feel that those that are meant to be there will still be there when you're ready to come back. So it's okay.
I like that. No, and I think I'm kind of the same way. We just started in March, and so I'm pretty new still. And I think it's a lot of pressure to build the social media, build this platform, don't look at your downloads, but look at your downloads.
Right, exactly.
Like, oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Okay. But so I agree with you. I love helping people. And if I would have known that podcasting was a thing that I could do, I would have been doing this years and years ago. I just wish I would have known, ahead of time. So anybody listening that wants to do their own podcast, just do it. Don't even think about it.
That's exactly it. And I'm not going to lie, it is a lot of work depending on how you do it. Since I'm my own editor, my own producer. So there is a lot of work to do behind the scenes, but as long as that's what you love to do, and you're not so focused on, mistakes or unless it's a big noticeable mistake, the ums and the ahs and the whatever, it's normal.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Normal. I don't even look at that ever. And I mean, I do an audio and a video. And so there's no way. How could I even cut that up? Like this, it would be ridiculous.
I know there's like all kinds of apps and magic, but you know what? Just be authentic and just leave it.
I love it.
So I had to learn that I don't need to have that because it's too much. And people do it. I get it. There's other people out there, the pros and all that. And that's awesome. That's awesome. But when we're our own person doing it all, we need to, I still have a kid at home. So
exactly. We gotta have our own standards of record. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, I'm so happy that we were able to connect. And like I said, thank you so much for your patience and waiting to connect, because I'm really happy that we did. And I love to, chat afterwards and really catch up with you down the road, especially when the book is going to be coming out. So that's great. We'll definitely get onto that, air this then, and make sure it's promoted as well. So yay. Before we leave, tell us your social medias, websites, where's the book at, all those good things.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So my website is a wild ride called life.com. The podcast is The Truths We Hide, and that's everywhere that you stream. Let's see. The audiobook, you can find that on the website too. It's due to release on Veterans Day, so we're crossing our fingers.
Yay.
And Instagram, same name. Twitter, same name. Basically, everything's the same. So.
Yeah, me too.
All the same. Just keep it easy.
Google SJ Childs to find me.
Exactly. You want to make it easy. So reach out.
Wonderful. Oh, it's so great to connect with you today. Thank you so much for your time. And I'll be talking to you in about 12 days.
Oh my God, that's so crazy, right?
Can you believe it? It's
so
fast. It's just coming up so fast. Now, we have some great episodes to air for Veterans Day, so this will be one of them. So make sure to stay tuned for all the great episodes. Thank you so much to our listeners and our viewers, and especially to our guest, Annette. Thank you so much for being here today, and we'll talk to you soon.